Whew, hey guys. Okay, so I fully admit people will hate this video. To some, there's no debate. If you attempt to discuss this, it's like trying to debate a vaccine denier. It's not worth it, and the debate itself raises the volume on their message. This is not like that. I recognize some topics are black and white, some have gray. This has gray simply because humanity is gray. You can only apply scientific certainty as much as you can apply scientific scrutiny to human nature, which some claim through, psychology and statistics. But once again, that places the blame on our nature and not the technology being discussed. Since some people will not get through this video and will kind of hate downvote based purely on the post title, I'll send out these disclaimers, which I know will satiate a few, but still not appease others. This coincides with my company's policy. I've played around with generative systems out of curiosity, out of general business interest, with the focus on can it, like my opinion on all technology, make my life easier, not cheaper, easier. I discussed the matter with my artists, other friends in the community, and unlike I feel a lot of people weighing opinion, I asked professionals working on this technology to get a better understanding of how it really works. Because most people are reading it and then they're hate sharing Facebook posts without any truth to them. I've played with novel AI, didn't like it outside of the fact that it'll write anything you want regardless of subject matter, but I ultimately found it worthless. I do pay for ChatGPT, but it's more about bouncing ideas and getting over writer's block. I don't have it write for me. I mean, I tried. And one day I'll go into detail about how absurdly obvious it is. It does kind of write like me, just my style, but also not. And others may not tell, but I could. Suffice to say, it ruined the word testament for all time. I can never use testament ever again. But the title of a novel I'm writing called The Dream of the Tempest came about from bouncing ideas off of ChatGPT. It helped me generate a fictional language. It translated a few things. I had a Midjourney subscription for a short time. I don't anymore. I don't use generative visual programs at all. So when I say I don't pay for Midjourney, it's not like doublespeak for supporting another one. The only exception was an AI up converter, taking an illustration I had and using an AI system to increase the resolution. And yeah, there are people who hate even that. We played around with using AI to convey ideas, communication. A lot of artists I have talked to when involving commissions like seeing visual examples of what you were thinking of. People have been doing this probably for centuries. Using a generated image accomplishes the same. Using some of these tools as a way to accelerate the process without replacing a person or diminishing our budget. You'd think me saying that my company continuing to employ artists, that we won't use AI to circumvent them, and that our budgets won't be affected would be enough. Because isn't that the problem? No. Because of training models and how these models came about, and some people who just have a complete knee-jerk hatred for AI in general, but we'll talk about all that later. I said that if an artist of proven quality produces an image that I love, that matches their skill, I don't really care how the sausage is made. Because while I muck around with Photoshop and speak visually about things, I don't possess the skills to illustrate. And whenever I see how an illustration comes about, I'm often amazed. Like seeing something I thought was painted, only to discover it was a 3D model that was rotated into position and then painted. Like there's a lot of magic. And I said that if you, meaning we, want to employ a generative system to increase the speed of production, I won't object. And I say that given that my current Amethyst book is 3 months behind schedule because of artwork. But saying that I won't circumvent artists and I won't reduce my art budget, the simple tolerance, or the fact that I won't police people, or the fact that I have employed generative systems as a means of communication makes me a villain in a lot of people's eyes. Let me also make it clear that I don't think writing a prompt and getting an image amounts to skill or something equating artistic merit. There is, and I'm amazed by the audacity, people who are defending their artistic capacity by claiming that finding the right prompt and running a generative system for hours to fire out the perfect image is akin to skill equating artists. Even when I messed with those systems, I wasn't that delusional. So a quick rundown on my history with technology in general. A lot of game writers in my demographic and older, I've discovered are barely proficient with technology. They have social media, but that's about it. That was never me. I mucked around with Apple IIs when I was 9, had my first PC, which was an 8086 when I was 13. Every 5 or 6 years since, I spent about $3,500 on a new PC, which, if you track inflation, is progressively less, which is ironic considering everything else has gotten more expensive. My first job was in electronics retail. My last job was in electronics retail, and I did that through my entire life. I manned the launch of the Sega Genesis, the Nintendo 64, and the Wii U. I manned the launches of PlayStations 1 through 5. I sold Nintendo Virtual Boys and MetaQuests. The first PC I ever sold was a 386 Tandy. The last one I sold was a 9th generation i7. I've taken computer science courses. I edit my own YouTube. I've been an embracer of technology for my entire life. I accept new technology when it emerges. So when AI came out, I was fascinated. People who know me know that I've hated anti-AI movies for decades. I've had real issues with the automatic knee-jerk hatred for them. Yeah, I mean, I love Terminator, but by the 2000s, I was like, yeah, I kind of get the point. I have friends in the AI industry. This was years before the current environment emerged, and they were talking about the different learning models and how they've revolutionized industries that nobody tracks publicly. So I was annoyed by the anti-AI rhetoric Hollywood was putting out in the 2000s and 2010s. A lot of movies people enjoy, I just don't. Like Upgrade, Ex Machina, Transcendence, basically every robot AI story on Netflix. I think these movies are garbage. The message was diluted. I wanted more honest approaches. The fact that behind any evil AI was an evil human that pulled the strings to make that system. I was watching a slew of short films some time ago, and many dealt with AI, and they all said the same thing. And I started commenting that, you know what would be an interesting twist to this? Literally anything else. It got to a point when I looked around the world and what was happening with everything that was going on in the news. And I started making public posts asking AI to take over because clearly we can't be trusted. All of my stories in game settings, which have involved AI, don't present them as inherently evil. There's a short film I'm trying to make, which we were supposed to make 4 or 5 years ago before this whole thing came about. And we got shut down because of COVID. It dealt with AI, but although it didn't deal with these generative systems, obviously, but rather the idealized idea of genuine consciousness and intelligence, which these learning systems can never become. I mean, for me, AI is not evil. People can be evil, and AI is like any other development humans will use to harm other humans. AI is just the next step to disenfranchise humans from financial independence. And this is our fault, not theirs. In the 1800s, industrialization destroyed hundreds of jobs in the textile industry. I'm not talking about the jobs no one wants. I'm talking about jobs people enjoy. People enjoy sewing. A machine does it cheaper, and it costs jobs. Technology killed jobs in farming, telephone operating, video stores, projectioning, and despite temporary and oftentimes substantial objection, the majority of the population embraced it. Computers were the next big step. I had a grammar checker back in the late 80s. Yeah, this is a profession. People used to be spell checkers and grammar checkers. We embraced this convenience because we didn't want to pay people for it. These people enjoyed these jobs. Almost every convenience we enjoy came about through the destruction of someone else's livelihood. Am I saying this to diminish the argument? No. The idea of an AI assistant that follows instructions, books tickets, helps you organize. An AI assistant could be an assistant, just none of us can afford real assistants. Cost, convenience. We want it, can't pay for it. We found a workaround at the expense of those in the industry. I'm saying when people decry technology eliminating their jobs, I feel it's important to self-reflect. I have friends in the voice acting community. Their industry has been gutted, and there's been virtually no outrage. TikTok, YouTube, any channels that employ audio or video are being populated by channels that use AI. The most successful channels on TikTok are AI narrators reading Reddit stories. So let's all accept that we are guilty of this in some capacity. As is the adage, when they came for my neighbors, I said nothing. And I have to disclose, I am a hardcore socialist. I vote NDP, I believe in UBI, socialized medicine, and a world where everyone can follow their dreams and enjoy a living doing it. But we embrace convenience and then we don't ask questions. And I feel like AI Luddites will hamper conversations and the debate. So what are people angry at? They are angry at the big targets, Midjourney, ChatGPT, Dolly. There are some that believe they can topple this whole house of cards if they can prohibit these services. That's impossible. This is simply about selling big tech ideas for large amounts of money. These platforms are large, but I believe the hardcore haters are rather delusional to the scope of the situation. The moment they open their eyes, they'd see how expansive and big this system is, and that it is so large, it makes a mockery of their argument when they target someone posting an image in a Facebook group regarding an AI image. You're not helping, and you are being distracted to the larger problem. And I hate to say it, the problem is us. It's our willful ignorance and delusion to how the world operates, how bad it's gotten, how bad the economy is, and our desire to focus on small issues we think we can affect while ignoring the large ones, which are literally destroying the world. So go after Google's use of AI, not the 17-year-old putting out AI maps on one bookshelf. Those who believe in free market capitalism and objectivism are the ones we need to take down. Artists, including me, are complaining about not making money. Is that the fault of AI or the economy as a whole? There once was a time where artists of all varieties could make money making art. Artists became celebrities. They could make a living writing. Most can't do that anymore. Is it because there's a lot of us? Maybe. Or is it because everyone is poor? I think that's the real concern, and we all seem to be ignoring it. No one can afford anything. Food is too high, rent is too high. I'm in Canada, and we're all barreling towards economic collapse because of our worship of free market capitalists. No one can afford a home. Rent is now like 50% or more of our monthly income. Who has money to spend on frivolous ideas? I abandoned the fan convention community because no one is buying anything at these events. And I hate to be the one to say it, but a lot of creators are responding to this economic downturn by raising prices and adding in license fees. This is not the solution. You cannot shame people from their conveniences. It hasn't worked in 100 years. Why would it work now? And I have been trying to keep my prices low in order to encourage more customers. But I get, we all were led to believe that AI would take over the shit jobs, allowing us to focus on arts and creative measures. But that's also kind of elitist. It says that the only jobs that matter are those jobs, and that the craftsmen and the sewers, as I mentioned earlier, aren't as important. It's okay if their jobs are removed. We only started caring when us artists were at threat. Where was the outrage when technology replaced the rest? Rich and powerful people don't want to cut humans out of some aspect of their industry. They want to cut us out of everything. Technology will not stop until every aspect can be made easier. It's almost egotistical to think that creatives would be the only ones immune. So I am starting to get frustrated at the vilification of regular people playing with AI. There are people on my Facebook wall that have said that even if you try Midjourney, they'll unfriend you. Like, that's zealotry. Like, that's bullshit. This brings us to the real unpleasant truth that people are ignoring. When you identify AI as being AI, it's because it's obvious. No AI is just invisible AI. The movie Rabbit Hole on YouTube has a great program based around this. No CGI is just invisible CGI. And it's about the lie that people are being fed, where we love something being practical. No CGI, real stunts. Practical sets. He's 3 parts in this series. Watch it. It's an eye-opener. The industry is straight up lying, and this applies to AI as well. Companies use and cannot monitor the use of AI. For every company that is caught, 100 slip by, and AI detectors are junk. I played around with the top 4 AI detectors. If you go to Google search and bring them up, and sent them a bunch of images, we would go 90% human for an image that was generated to 90% AI for a 50-year-old illustration. And they're also not even consistent with each other. I'll take the same image, 90% human, 50% AI, 75% AI, 100% human. The same image. They're worthless. If you commission an artist and they are talented enough, they can make a generated image look like something they made, and you would never know. You think the finger thing is obvious? They fixed the finger thing before I left Midjourney. New images are flawless. It was at that point I walked away, ironically enough, because I realized I could get any image I wanted, and it would past muster, and I didn't want to fall down that rabbit hole anymore. I realized I needed human involvement, and it was back in August when I started to push away because it was getting too good. Throwing an artist a badly generated idea for them to jump off of and create something way better, I was okay with. I was not okay with generating an image that perfectly duplicated what they could create without their involvement. But even though I made that choice to walk away, it also means less scrupulous people could generate images without ever being caught. It's easy for large companies, video or print, to state that we don't use AI because they have the money to avoid it. I also think most of them are lying. Either they are lying or they're making that statement knowing full well that ignorance is bliss. They have said, we won't ask you not to use AI, but know that if we get caught, we'll throw you under the bus. So yeah, whenever I see a company, any company, make an anti-AI stance, I kind of laugh because they know it'll be virtually impossible for them to get caught. And then they can claim unawareness by simply not policing their staff or those they contract. The recent writer's strike had a big issue with AI, and the resolution was that writers would not be forced to use AI. It didn't say they couldn't, but it was placed specifically to prevent writers from being circumvented and to allow writers themselves to dictate how they could use the technology if they wished. I was having a conversation with Faith Lilly, and we both agreed that it would be simply easier and better if they just admitted it. Don't lie. And some companies have begun to be upfront about their use of AI, and you can react as honestly as you want about it. But a lot of people don't care. Terraforming Mars is like one of the best board games of all time, but it has some of the worst clip art and public domain images on their cards. They switched to AI with their last Kickstarter. There was outrage, and it raised $2 million. I've often asked people who come at me, which often results in more anger and unfriending, to define the line. Is AI expansion in Photoshop, that's spreading an image to expand and zoom out, does that make an image AI? Does upconverting make an image AI? Restoration, if you generate a car, then put that car in a scene you paint, is there a percentage? And there are some that believe the moment you touch AI in any capacity, you lose the right to have ownership of your work or that you are worthy of cancellation. When I talk about small publishers, I don't mean me, but I don't feel like vilifying them is productive. The same thing goes with random images on Facebook. Most groups and pages have a policy that as long as you state it's generative, you can share it. But people will still complain. And I've asked, as I just did, what constitutes generative? Is there a percentage? Can you say this image contains some generative content? And is there a percentage that we can accept? The haters will say 0. And I'll ask to create a follow-up question. Do you know how this system works? You think it's a dozen, 100, or 1,000 companies. Were you aware that the learning algorithm is open, that anyone can download it for free? This once again comes back to my curiosity about technology. I found out that you can download programs that allow web-based interfaces rooted on your own PC. You want to know how many AI programs are out there? Look up Hugging Face to see how many independent AI systems are out there. And there are programs you can download. Python. I just discovered the deep rabbit hole that was Comfy UI that allows you to string different systems together to create bespoke generative systems. And this will eventually take you to something called Civet AI, which is a colossal database of models. And you can, shockingly, train a model entirely off of not only public domain artwork, but your own artwork. Yeah, you can do that. If you have a library large enough, you can do this privately with no social aspect to this. It is entirely possible and easy to possess an ethical training model. And if that's true, does that not remove that one ethical obstacle? Well, no. Despite me saying this, there are still those that will object, but knowing how large this is and the fact that hundreds of thousands of people can operate their own generative models off their home PCs, you begin to understand the scale of the situation. There was once a fact made some time ago, I think it was Veritasium, that said that 99% of all photographs that have ever been taken in history have been taken in the last 5 years. I would say that's also true of AI images. 99% of all illustrations ever made in the history of mankind were probably created in the past 18 months. It's a frightening thing to accept. We all want to be paid to do what we love. We all want to make a living enjoying our passions. AI is not going to destroy the world. We're doing it by ignoring the evils powerful people are committing using tools like AI to remove humans from the economy. If you made it this far, then you're one of those people willing to listen. Most won't. They'll knee-jerk react, which I understand. If I were to tell you how I became an atheist, it began with a lot of reactionary refusals to listen because the truth is uglier and more complex than we'd like to believe. Hating on Midjourney or ChatGPT or any generative system in general is like hating the entirety of baseball because you struck out once at a game. It's such a smaller point of a much larger conversation. The fight is fading. The social media outrage had a time, and I barely see anyone talking about it. There were lawsuits, which no one's talking about anymore. Artists have stopped sharing their opinions on it. Companies rarely bring it up. It's not because we shamed everyone to avoid AI. AI just won. We just started to accept it. And I'm not saying that's good. I'm saying it's human nature. Bread and circuses. Within a year, are we going to still be complaining about it? I mean, assuming that we're not in the middle of a third world war, the volume on AI might be turned down a spell. Saying that AI has a place in our society and that our society is crumbling thanks to humans who employ technology to remove humans from the workplace. There's almost a cognitive dissonance there until you realize the fault lies with humanity. Our willingness to sacrifice strangers for our convenience, our fear of socialist values in favor of a corrupt, laissez-faire system that is destroying the fabric of civilization. You think I'm talking too big, that I'm inflating the issue. This is the issue. AI is out of the bottle. You can't put it back in, period. You want to stop the roots of this technology, it's already everywhere. And the solution is to understand what it is and what the real problem is and how we can fix it. And I know that is difficult for people to accept. And so it's easier to just downvote videos, shout about how people are wrong, and you're allowed to believe that because this is a great topic. It's not black and white. To stress, I do not support the practice of using artificial intelligence as a means of saving money. This involves cutting artists out of the process. I do think AI can become a productive tool in an artist's portfolio as long as they don't let it encompass the entirety of the result. Generative systems should not replace artists. This extends to ChatGPT as well. While I support its use as an assistant or generating ideas or potentially producing smaller bodies of text in order to kind of get over a writer's block, I don't support the copy-pasting of pages just based solely on a prompt. But thank you if you guys made it to this video. Please like and subscribe. And I'm open to civilized debate. And I hope to go back to talking about games next week. Thanks.